I'm going to share with you the approach I take to reach out to my first 10 customers or first 100 contacts. So let me give you an example. I have a LinkedIn profile with 4,700 connections right now. And what I do know is that whenever I post something like a white paper or a blog, not just like an update post, but something that is kind of material, it could even be your elevator pitch. I usually get 500 to 10,000, 1,000 impressions on that. And what that means is that of the 4,700 connections that I have, about 10 to 20% of the people kind of review it and open up the document or whatever. So you can see that something as simple as a white paper or a blog post, through a social media platform, you could expect about a 10% interaction rate with that content. So if you want to share an idea about your product or solution and you want to see how many people might get interested in it, then that's a good way to start. And then from there, you could start reaching out to individuals that might have read or responded. Once I have that list, then I kind of organize that list into four buckets. The first is, as you look at the people that have responded, you'll have a list of people that are highly trusted. Like these are the people that know you really well, you're connected with them, they respond to most of the things that you put out there, and someone you could just call up and you could ask for advice, you could ask for feedback, you could see if it's a good fit, you could see if they know somebody that might be a good referral for your product or service. So those are your deeply trusted contacts. Then I have another group, and these are the people that I know that are would regularly give me constructive criticism and critical feedback so that I know how to make another version of this in order to improve it. It could be the first draft of your prototype. It could be even just showing them your lean canvas or talking them through your idea, starting with the elevator pitch. The third group, which is a tricky one for many people, but I think it's an important one for you to know the marketplace, which we'll also talk about, is places where you could get a competitive perspective, right? So let's say you're coming up with that grading application that I mentioned before, or a PD program. If you have people in your network that have a lot of experience or even work at a organization that might compete with that product, it's always interesting to get feedback from them because they have a very different perspective than somebody that isn't competing with you. And so that competitive view is really some secret sauce that you could get from another person at an organization that you trust. And then finally, there's a group of people that you think would be a good fit, but you're still trying to figure out how it might be a good fit for them to become an early adopter or a champion for your product. And these are the folks that you might have to reach out to a couple times because the first way you describe your product, it might not resonate with them just right. And so you have to continuously engage that group as well. And ultimately, this is the group that will become your first 10 customers.
Okay, so I have four tips for you, especially if you're trying to start your own consulting practice, offering services for organizations and schools. And my tips are really thinking about how do you get your first 10 clients in a way that feels authentic to you. The first, for me, having conversations with an ear for pain points was a very natural way and was actually how I got my first client. What I mean by that is, your first client will most likely come from some sort of casual conversation and not necessarily a polished pitch. So instead of trying to sell, focus on learning, focus on really understanding people's challenges and where they're stuck and frustrations they might have, right? And when you hear a problem that you can solve, don't be afraid to say, "Oh, I can actually help you with that. Do you want to chat more?" And I mentioned, my first client came from actually a very simple coffee chat. I was really trying to understand some of the things that this nonprofit leader was dealing with. And by the end of it, she asked me, well, could you actually help me with this? Right. And so a simple action that you could do is set up maybe 10 informal calls. These could be, I call them informational interviews. They're not sales pitches, but they're just real conversations for you to better understand potential client needs. And then from there, you'll never know kind of how that might turn into your first client. The second tip is to borrow trust from established networks. One of the fastest ways to build credibility is to align yourself with organizations and people who already have the trust of the clients that you want, right? Early on, I did a workshop for another nonprofit whose board was full of school leaders, key decision makers in schools. And the single event actually led to multiple paid clients in the following years because these leaders saw my work firsthand. So an action you can do is look for nonprofits, associations, or industry leaders who already share an audience, share your audience that you're trying to reach, and then offer to do a free workshop or share insights through them with their network. Okay. The third tip is to just be patient, follow up, and stay visible. And part of that is really about understanding that most people won't say yes the first time that you talk to them. And that doesn't mean that they're not interested. It just means that maybe the timing isn't right or they haven't quite understood fully what it is that you're trying to offer. So your job is to stay visible in a way that maybe feels more natural to you. So, for example, I once remember having a conversation with somebody, and then it wasn't until 18 months after that they came back and they actually became a client. So something that you could do is create a simple system for following up. That could look like sending an article, right? Inviting them to an event, or just checking in every few months. And I really believe that consistency turns kind of the not yet into yes. Okay, lastly is just using proof points, documenting your proof points. I think new clients want reassurance that you can deliver. You could be so passionate about what you do, but I think most people want to see results, especially if you're a consulting practice. And so if you don't have testimonials yet, you can use case studies from your past work, or if you don't have any, maybe offer some free or discounted work projects in exchange for a case study. I remember before I had kind of formal testimonials and, before word of mouth about my work really spread, I simply shared stories with the work that I had done I had a Google Doc and each type of work that I did, whether it was paid or not, I created a one pager with some kind of talking points, some key takeaways. And then that way, after conversations, people wanted some more examples. I just kind of pulled the pages out that made sense and send them, say, hey, here's something I've done in the past, right? So what you could do right now is maybe think of 3 success stories from your past work, even if they weren't paid, and use those as proof points for potential clients. Okay. So finally, just the closing thought. I think your first clients are not going to come from kind of a perfect website or a polished pitch, and they'll really come from relationships that you build and, through listening, offering insights, and, every yes kind of builds that momentum for you. And before you know it, you'll have a thriving business that grows through trust and results.